So I want to take you to Zimbabwe now, where police have again cracked down on opposition Movement for Democratic Change supporters. They'd gathered in Harare this morning to listen to a speech by their leader, Nelson Chamisa. The latest violence comes as the MDC accuses President Emmerson Mnangagwa of adopting the heavy-handed tactics of his predecessor, Robert Mugabe. What you're looking at now is some of the video that was posted online today, on Wednesday, as those MDC supporters made their way through Harare. Their intention, of course, to go to the party's headquarters where Nelson Chamisa was due to address them, but it was not to be. They were soon confronted by Zimbabwean police and all hell really breaking loose on the streets of Harare. Well, in a statement on Wednesday afternoon today, the opposition party says it is the victim of government brutality and has strongly condemned the violent attack outside its headquarters. Tensions have long been rising in Zimbabwe. The population is grappling with a severe economic crisis that's seen rolling power cuts, sometimes up to 18 hours, as well as shortages of foreign currency and fuel. Let's talk about this then and bring in our guests. I'm joined on the line from Zimbabwe by the MDC leader, Nelson Chamisa. We'll speak to him in a moment. But here with me in studio is a ZANU-PF representative in South Africa, that is Kennedy Mandaza. Good evening to you both, gentlemen. I'll come to you in a moment, Mr. Chamisa, but I want to begin with you, Mr. Mandaza, and ask how you as a Zimbabwean felt when you began to see those pictures coming in from your country today. What happened?
Well, good evening to the viewers. As a Zimbabwean and as a member of ZANU-PF, we do not condone any violence of any nature in Zimbabwe and anywhere in the world. And what we saw today is what we are saying we do not want to see in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is not a lawless country. We want the rule of law to be maintained. We want the police to maintain order. And we do not want anyone to therefore think that Zimbabwe is a banana republic where anyone can do whatever they want to do at any given time. And well,
by banana republic and people doing whatever they want, are you speaking specifically now to the gathering by the MDC supporters, or are you speaking to the action by the police officers who assaulted them?
Let us put this into context.
I've asked you two very clear questions.
Why were people marching today? Was it allowed for them to march today? The president of MDC was supposed to address people in their offices, and people were asked to go in. And what had happened today is that the majority of the supporters of MDC had come to congregate or to go into the offices so that they can listen to their president against what they had been asked or told not to do, which is they were not supposed to toy in the streets. They were not supposed to interfere with the freedom of all the other people who were supposed to use the
so
road.
By Banana Republic, you are referring to this gathering, this group of MDC supporters who
people just deciding
to leader. Is that what you're saying is equating Zimbabwe to a banana republic?
People just deciding to do whatever they want to do without taking heed of what the police say.
Okay, let's bring in Nelson Chamisa joining us on the line from Harare, I believe. Mr. Chamisa, Mr. Mandaza says what we saw today in Zimbabwe were people gathering despite not having permission or at least being advised not to gather. Why did the MDC members do that?
Well, I suppose he doesn't understand that the Constitution permits the fundamental freedom and right to assemble and express people sentiment in any particular point in time. But I just want to say the situation today is extremely unfortunate. We had police brutality unprovoked, and there was no violence at all. These are our offices. Our supporters were just gathering to listen to our message of hope, message of peace. Unfortunately, people were then beaten up. In fact, we recorded close to about 40 victims who were put in very difficult circumstances. As I speak, I just left the hospital. Some people have sustained very serious and fatal injuries. something that I have to try and deal with at the moment.
Let me ask you this, Nelson Chamisa. This is not the first time MDC supporters have tried to gather in Zimbabwe and been met with brute force by the police in that country. Was it not reckless of you as leader to try and address them, knowing the very conditions under which you live in Zimbabwe?
Well, the fact that we have a tyranny, a dictatorship, and a police state does not make any of our routine and civilian activities abnormal or criminal. We're just going to our office. This is our party offices. But of late we have seen that, unlike under Mr. Mugabe, Mr. Mnangagwa doesn't seem to understand that we exist not just as an alternative, but also as the leading party in the country. We control the majority of the cities and towns. Out of the 32 cities and towns in the country, we control with mayors in those cities about 28 out of 32. So we are basically the government in this country. We also won the election. I'm sure you know that with a dispute that went to the Constitutional Court, which was settled there. But that does not depart from the fact that we have the majority supporting the country. So that understanding has to be appreciated by Mr. Mnangagwa, that we are the leading party in this country. But he continues to use Gestapo tactics, macho tactics, violent tactics, especially to maim people, kill people, brutalize people. The people who are affected today are ordinary people, elderly people who are just going about doing their own chores. We also had vendors who were also affected, being thoroughly beaten by police, armed to the teeth, in a country that does not have electricity, in a country that does not have medical supplies.
Okay.
We are able to buy tear gas and canisters instead of buying tablets for the people.
Kennedy Mandaza, ZANU-PF back here with me in Johannesburg. So ZANU-PF, well, not ZANU-PF members, the opposition MDC members had gathered for what seems to be quite a harmless purpose, to hear their leader speak, as happens with any political formation. You say they were going to disrupt the movement of other people in what I believe was central Harare. But I've not heard you condemn the actions of police who beat them. Why are the police who work for your government in Zimbabwe unable to manage a crowd without beating them? What's the problem?
I think we cannot say that they are unable to manage the crowd.
But why do they
because
beat them every time
what
they
happened
call in?
today, if you followed even the tweets that were coming through, and even some of the pictures that were sent through the various platforms, you would have seen that the assistant police commissioner spoke to Nkululeko, who is the spokesman of Nelson Chamisa, to say that, could you please allow your people to go into the building if you are to address your people? And they continue to say that the building is full, and if it was full, he was told that then you should tell your people to disperse. And they were following the dictates of MOPA, which allows the police to come in and address the conveners of the meeting, which they did.
Address through batons?
No, they didn't address through batons. They first of all brought outside the convener, who is Nkululeko, the spokesman of Nelson Chamisa, and was told to disperse his people. They were given a time frame, and they continued to toy for more than an hour. And it was then that the police came in to disperse the people. Because the people were then throwing stones to the police, they then decided to use minimum force.
I want to quote for you here something, and in fact I'll paraphrase, because your president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, over the weekend had an opinion piece published by the CNBC news agency where he talks about his administration opening the political and media space. Is that what we were seeing in action today?
Not really. The president has done all what he could and what he can, and he continues to do the same. Like, for instance, as we speak right now, Nelson Chamisa has declined to go and join the other political parties that have gone for the Pollard, where all political parties have been asked to come in and join and chart a new course for Zimbabwe. Besides that, if you saw what the president has been preaching all along, it has been peace, unity, and bringing on board all the other political actors in Zimbabwe, so that all of us will look at the revitalizing the economy of Zimbabwe. But we see through the shenanigans of MDC that whenever the president goes out to seek investments, they go out on the streets, so that we do not have the kind of confidence that investors should have in what the president is doing. And these shenanigans should be known by the the world that what MDC is doing, they are posturing themselves so that Zimbabwe does not change, so that it fits the agenda of bringing in regime change through empty stomachs of people.
Nelson Chamisa on the phone from Harare. Let me put to you a question based on what Mr. Mandaza is saying. Are you then, as the ZANU-PF, sabotaging the ZANU-PF government's, are you as the MDC, I beg your pardon, are you sabotaging the ZANU-PF's efforts, President Mnangagwa's efforts to try and attract investment to Zimbabwe and resuscitate what we all agree is pretty much a dead economy?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
I'm asking you if you, as the ZANU-PF is charging you, are you guilty of sabotaging efforts to revive the economy and attract investment?
Let me just explain this. It is not the MDC that is influencing and persuading the police to use barbaric methods. Where on earth in this day and age would you find a police using, stones, using baton sticks to chase people like they are chasing around wild animals? What it tells you is that these are primitive methods. If you recall, South Africa had to intervene on behalf of SADC to help train police in Zimbabwe, especially after the Motlanthe Commission and after the shooting of people on the streets in August last year. But if you see and look at the behavior of the police, it tells you these are unrepentant people. This is a barbaric way of policing in this day and age, wherein you are seen to be throwing around tear gas on people who are non-violent, on people who are at their headquarters. This is just but the tip of an iceberg. Mr. Mnangagwa has pursued the path of tyranny, dictatorship, and violence against the citizens because he was not voted in by the people of Zimbabwe. He has no confidence of the people of Zimbabwe. People do not trust him.
We're running out of time, so I will need a yes or no question or answer to this next question, Mr. Chamisa. Will you, as the MDC, continue to gather in Zimbabwe with or without government permission?
We don't need permission to gather. The permission to gather is a God-given right. We will gather according to the Constitution. Nobody is going to stop us, even if they use violence. All dictators who have used violence will always have their day. There is always going to be reckoning time.
Thank you for that, Nelson Chamisa, the MDC leader, speaking to us from Harare. My apologies for cutting both my guests off tonight, but we are, as always, in a race against time. Also, my thanks to the ZANU-PF South Africa spokesperson, Kennedy Mandaza, was with me in the studio here in Johannesburg. I'm back with much more news for you in a moment. Stay with us.